Good afternoon and welcome back everyone to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Closing Bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota.
Well, no respite for the market really there. BSE, Sensex and the Nifty opened on a firm note but failed to build on it and closing lower for the fifth straight session. And for a while, mid-cap stocks were doing well, but towards the end they too slipped into the red. Clearly, a lot of concerns about the state of US financial health, and that's what's weighing on sentiment in markets across the globe. The India Volatility Index inched up slightly to about 16.36, and among the best performing sectors today, shares from the metal and pharma sector managed to hold ground, whereas stocks from the auto, realty, IT, FMCG and banking sector, those continued to get hammered. Among the prominent gainers today, we had Adani Enterprises, Adani Ports, Tata Steel and Titan Industries, whereas among the prominent losers we had SBI, Nestle, Bharti Airtel, Reliance Industries.
Santo, I think as you rightly mentioned, the US banks वो एक चिंता का विषय बनी रही है. In fact, अभी डाइंग मोमेंट्स ऑफ ट्रेड पे क्रेडिट स्विस का भी एक अपडेट आया और ब्लूमबर्ग के हवाले से ये खबर आ रही है कि क्रेडिट स्विस के इन्वेस्टर्स ने फर्दर इक्विटी सपोर्ट देने से मना कर दिया है. अभी उनको लगता है कि शायद टू प्री मैच्योर है कोई फर्दर कमिटमेंट करने का. क्रेडिट स्विस के शेयर्स इस रिपोर्ट के बाद लगभग 10% नीचे हैं प्री ट्रेडिंग में. तो कहीं ना कहीं वो एक पैनिक पॉइंट था पिछले आधे घंटे में, जिसके कारण बाजार में आपने इतनी वॉलिटिलिटी देखी. लेकिन सैंटो, इन द मॉर्निंग देयर वाज अ बिलीव दैट विल बी स्टेबल, डूइंग वेल इन द मार्केट, क्योंकि जो यूएस बैंक्स हैं वहाँ एक बाउंस बैक आया. ये छोटी छोटी बैंक्स हैं, एवरीवेयर देयर वाज अ बाउंस बैक. एंड आई थिंक मार्केट नॉट ओनली गेव अप द गेन्स, बट आज 17,000 निफ्टी लेवल के नीचे क्लोज आया है. You think it's like the final leg of capitulation, or there could be some further risk to markets on the downside?
Well, for one, there's clearly fatigue in the market, and I think at every bounce, probably people are looking to reduce their positions. That could explain perhaps why the market is unable to sustain at high levels. There's no major follow-up buying coming from the institutional investors. Of course, domestics have been buyers, but FIIs, that is that FI leg of support, pillar of support clearly is missing at this point in time. And when you say capitulation, Yatin, I would typically associate it with real panic. We are not seeing any kind of panic.
Correct.
In fact, still some people think this is a good time to be bargain hunting, and they continue to do so. At least that is the buzz that we are hearing from dealing circles who buy and sell on behalf of high net worth individuals. So it doesn't seem to be a situation where hope is lost, and I think capitulation happens when you finally say that okay, now nothing, you give up all hope, but that is still very far away. So what most brokers and fund managers are saying that most likely this could be a kind of a slow grind where it will really continue to test your patience, and then towards the end perhaps you might see that kind of despair that marks capitulation, but that doesn't seem to be on the cards, at least right away.
Absolutely.
And with that, let's quickly move on to the stocks on our watch list this afternoon. JSW Steel, overall metal stocks stood firm today, and JSW Steel was also one of the gainers, climbing a little over 1%. Motilal Oswal has rated the stock as neutral and has a price target of about 710 rupees for the stock. According to Motilal Oswal, the China reopening and reduction in export duty, these have helped steel prices stabilize. In addition to that, there is also support in the form of increased government spending on infrastructure. So these are two factors which could help steel prices stay stable. And steel prices in Europe too have been steadily inching higher. Now, the two reasons there: one is that supply from Turkey, that's been disrupted because of the earthquake there, and secondly, Turkey's reconstruction itself would call for a lot of steel demand, and as a result of that, steel prices in Europe are inching up. According to Motilal Oswal, the stock is trading, JSW Steel stock is trading at about 5.8 times, that's estimated EV to EBITDA, and 2 times price to book value estimated for FY24. So these pretty much capture most of the upsides. Overall, JSW Steel does have plenty of positives. It is present across the entire range of steel products. Secondly, value-added products account for more than 55% of its overall sales. It's one of the preferred suppliers to the auto sector. So you have a lot of positives there, but at the same time, the risk, according to Motilal Oswal, is that JSW Steel imports coking coal, and any price rise on that front could once again affect margins.
One thing, Santo, steel prices are more or less stable now. From lows, I think Chinese steel prices are up 14% in the current financial year, or rather in the last 4 or 5 months, the prices have picked up in China. More importantly, one thing which China announced today, that the pollution curbs on the steel industries will be implemented this year also. So typically ahead of the planning years, China announces these measures, and I think steel prices will further firm up, because there could be a big production cut which Chinese steel companies would have to take in order to produce less polluting steel, and in order to move out unlicensed capacities. So let's see, this news report just came in today afternoon. Let's see how the stock reacts. And today UK will present their budget, and there is a hope that there could be some big measures to boost the local steel industry, because UK is pushing for green steel and carbon free production of a lot of commodities. So they will be incentivizing the overall steel industry, which would mean higher cost. But on the other hand, the government will also look at subsidizing or giving capital support in order to produce cleaner metal products. So this is broadly the steel macroeconomics which is happening. Also we'll focus on Maruti Suzuki, और यहाँ अगर हम देखें तो promoters ने लगभग 300 करोड़ रुपए के शेयर्स लिए. सुजुकी मोटर्स जो कंपनी की जापानीज प्रमोटर है, उन्होंने बहुत सालों बाद यहाँ अपनी हिस्सेदारी बढ़ाई है, मार्जिनली सही, लेकिन वैल्यू वाइज अगर आप देखें तो मार्च 10 से मार्च 13 तक 300 करोड़ का स्टॉक उन्होंने खरीदा. आज सिटी की एक बाय रिपोर्ट भी आई मारुति में, जहां उन्होंने टारगेट जो है मारुति पे रखा है 12,500 का, यानी करंट मार्केट प्राइस से एक डिसेंट 30-40% की अपसाइड उनको लगती है काउंटर में, क्योंकि जो इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स है, हाइब्रिड व्हीकल्स हैं, एसयूवीज हैं, यहाँ शायद मारुति अगले 2-3 सालों में अच्छा प्रिपेयर्डनेस बता रही है, और शायद नए प्रोडक्ट्स भी यहाँ से लॉन्च होते हुए आपको दिखाई पड़ेंगे.
But overall, Yatin, the auto story seems to have abruptly run out of steam, although you're not seeing any major negative. Sales till February at least have been pretty much decent. But one worry perhaps the market may be having at this point could be that steel prices are now have stabilized, and probably they're also fearing that prices could inch up from here, perhaps to some extent putting pressure on auto companies' margin. But what's the picture as far as the semiconductor issue is?
I think most of the companies are guiding that semiconductor issue is behind and supply situation is improving. And the City report also mentions that in the next 12 months you would see production hitting record levels, given the chip availability will be better. But as you were mentioning, rising commodity prices could be a risk to the rally. And more importantly, Santo, we have the interest rates and the order backlog. Both of these things, moving unfavorably for auto companies as of now. But the brokerages and analysts are hopeful that नए प्रोडक्ट्स जब आएंगे मार्केट में ऑटो कंपनीज की, तब थोड़ा बहुत आपको डिमांड में भी रिवाइवल आता हुआ दिखाई पड़ेगा.
CCL Products Limited, which is the producers, distributor and trader in coffee, and that's one of the stocks which did well in today's lackluster market. The stock rose by a little over 1%, and it's among the few stocks which are quoting closer to their 52-week highs. Now, the stock had taken a bit of a pounding in May last year when it had fallen to about 320 odd levels, but since then it's been steadily inching up. Now, according to Nirmal Bang Institutional Equities, the company's core business to business has been pretty strong. That division has been doing pretty well, led by order wins across geographies. In addition, it's also been getting more revenues from existing clients, also adding new clients, and besides also expanding its product offering. So this is what has largely been driving the top line. According to Moneycontrol Pro, the company has maintained its volume guidance for FY23. This is despite the fact that overall volumes for the December quarter were slightly muted, although higher coffee prices helped improve realizations and get better margins. According to Nirmal Bang, the demand for spray dried coffee is pretty strong across all geographies, and the broker sees CCL Products clocking volume sales of about 60,000 tons of spray dried coffee in FY26. That should translate into about operating profit of about 7,100 odd crore rupees. That is what Nirmal Bang has to say. And according to Moneycontrol Pro, CCL Products is quoting at expensive valuations at this point in time. However, that is justified considering that over the last 4 or 5 years, the company has been consistently outperforming the industry.
Absolutely, and I think with El Nino on the corner, the coffee crop also has some risks. So if the production is lower, I think coffee prices rise. In that scenario, I think historically we have seen CCL Products and coffee companies do perform pretty much better than what they usually do in normal monsoon or normal season trends. But this was CCL Products. Let's also talk about PVR. CLSA की बात करें तो यहाँ इन्होंने बाय रेटिंग रखी है, टारगेट है 2,500 रुपये, यानी करंट मार्केट प्राइस से CLSA को लगता है 1,000 रुपीज़ की अपसाइड PVR में है, क्योंकि बेस्ट पोजीशन है मर्जर के बाद जो इन्होंने मर्जर किया था आइनॉक्स के साथ. कंपनी को लगता है कि 230 करोड़ यानी 230 करोड़ की सिनर्जीज आइनॉक्स के साथ मर्जर के बाद बनती हुई दिखाई पड़ेंगी. करंटली द कंपनी हैज़ अ कंबाइंड स्क्रीन शेयर in 114 cities totaling up to 1674. तो टोटल ये 1674 स्क्रीन्स चलाते हैं और मैनेजमेंट का टारगेट है कि हर साल इस फिगर को 10 से 15% बढ़ाया जाए. तो एनुअली इनको लगता है 180 to 200 स्क्रीन्स वो ऐड करते चले जाएंगे. तो ग्रोथ के लिहाज से स्क्रीन एडिशन काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट है, प्लस जो मर्जर से बेनिफिट आएगा, टिकट प्राइसेस इंप्रूव होगी, उसके कारण शायद अब ब्रोकरेजेस स्टॉक पे बुलिश.
And this has always been one stock very hard to value on conventional parameters. It mostly depends on the kind of movies that are doing well.
Yes.
So if a string of movies does well, suddenly there's a mad rush for PVR, and the moment there are 2 or 3 flops, it's almost like the end of the world. In many ways, I think PVR's stock performance has also been like the hero in one of those Bollywood movies going through a lot of ups and downs. You had the despair of the pandemic, then the euphoria over the reopening, and once again the stock appears to be in no man's land.
Correct.
Well, and with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
And we'll be back with you again at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Till then, for news, views and analysis, stay logged on to moneycontrol.com.